So in today's video, I'm going to tell you about the probability of hiring, the likelihood of you landing a job, the odds of you walking into a job interview and receiving a job offer, and what you can do to change them. And listen, I need you to watch to the end because this kind of builds up to a crescendo, and I have a real world example. There's going to be some math, but I'm going to keep it to a minimum. What up, fam? This is Dr. James W. Stalkup, aka Jimmy Joe Coltrane. Yo, I'm like the Lucy Lawless of making your job interview flawless, and today we're going to talk about the probability of hiring. Frankie, hit him with the dubstep. Frankie doesn't really play the dubstep right there. It's an editing process. Conditional probability, huge part of my real job. What's my real job? Well, I'm an MD doctor, but I'm a chief medical informatics officer. That means I'm a clinical informaticist. And conditional probability is a huge part of the academic side of my job. In the real world, it's a moderate part. But I do understand probability, and a lot of people overlook this when they're trying to get a job. You see, your probability of hiring can seem mysterious. And ultimately, we're trying to change those job interview odds. This video is going to be fast-paced, but first and foremost, let me say the odds I present are all pre-COVID odds. We don't know about the probability of hiring now that coronavirus has hit America. I think it's probably worse, if anything, because there are a lot of businesses that are closed, and there's a lot more people who are furloughed, unemployed, seeking jobs. So we don't really know the numbers now. Someday we will. We'll see the numbers. But you know, when it comes to data and like HR studies, it ain't like clinical studies. It's very nebulous. Subjectivist epistemology. So let's get started. Probability of hiring. I'm going to walk you through the numbers that are stated. So the stated numbers are that there is a 1 in 14 chance of you getting hired for a position. So we're going to assume that you do everything right and that the position is going to hinge on your ability to walk in and endear yourself to the obstacle. So there's a 1 in 14 chance of you getting it. Now, I've seen some variation on these numbers, but we're going to go with that one. So a while back, I trained a guy named Andrew, and Andrew went out and did some job interviews, extremely competitive. He told me there were about 100 applicants up against him in these interviews for these various positions, so he was going to do a series of job interviews. He did a really good job. He trained, developed personalized content. I did some one-on-one interview practice with him, sort of told him some things to work on. He got it polished up to a very, very nice interview. And then later on, some months later, I bumped into him. Hey, Andrew, what's going on? Oh man, it went great. I got a job, but you know what? I went through 3 job interviews and I got offered every one. Bro, you did 3 job interviews and got offered every one? So let's look at the odds on this. So the likelihood of, assuming 1 in 14, the likelihood of going into 3 job interviews and getting 3 job offers at 1 in 14 odds is 1 in 2,744. But what if there's 100 applicants for each job? And we assume that you're going in there with a fighting chance, an equal chance with all these people. That's 1 in a million. So this is the math on what we call a dependent event versus an independent event. So an independent event is like a coin flip, right? It's like you flip a coin and the coin doesn't know the previous flip. So it has an equal odds every time. A dependent event is dependent on the choices before it. So for example, if I have 20 marbles in a bag and one of them is pink, and you reach in the bag, the first time you have a 1 in 20 chance of grabbing the pink marble. Now, if you grab one of the white marbles, then your next odds of getting the pink marble are 1 in 19. And so you can see the dependent probability is based on the events that happened before it. This is a little bit of foreshadowing, so watch this. The goal to affect the probability of hiring is not to play the odds. The goal is not to rely on the odds. Now, there is a very powerful thought experiment about job interview odds that sort of shows you the variation between these numbers, and I want to walk through this with you. So imagine that human interview skill, job interview skill, was found in 3 categories across the population of human beings. There were the good interviewers, the average interviewers, and the below average interviewers. Imagine that everyone fell into one of these 3 classes equally. So in a population of 300 people, you would find 100 below average interviewers, 100 average interviewers, and 100 good interviewers. Okay, Now, imagine that you go into a job interview and you are competing with 4 other candidates. Next condition of this thought experiment is you can only be competitive with someone who is at or below your level. The good interviewer competes with everyone. The average interviewer competes only with the average and below average, and the below average only competes with other below average applicants. Now, if you are below average, what is the likelihood that the other 4 candidates will be below average? And the answer is 1 in 81. So if you are in that bottom category, there's only a 1 in 81 chance that you will be competitive in the job interview. Not that you'll get the job, but that you will be competitive in the job interview. So what we're doing is we're localizing the probability to a given strata of job interview skill. So I don't know how qualified this person is who has below average interview skills, but I'm going to tell you that job proficiency does not correlate with interview skills. This person could be a fantastic future employee, but has struggles with job interviewing. So the probability of hiring is going to be low if they're only competitive in 1 out of 81 interviews. So what's going to happen is human nature will kick in, and this person will start setting their sights lower and lower and lower until they get a job that they deserve better. They'll take a job with lower pay, worse hours, a job that is less desirable to the other people. Now imagine we could train that person who's below average and bring them up 1 notch to the average category. What does that do to the probability of hiring? So in that job interview scenario with 4 other applicants, there's going to be a 16 in 81 chance of that person being competitive. When they walk into that interview, there will be a 16 out of 81 chance that they will be competitive. Now imagine that we never make that person good. We never get them in the top third. Even by moving from below average to average, we have had a dramatic impact on their ability to be competitive in a job interview. A chance of 16 out of 81 is dramatically better than a chance of 1 out of 81. So this person may actually be able to line up enough job interviews to be competitive and get the job that they want. So look, real quick, before I tell you kind of the climax of the story, click like and click subscribe. This is a very young channel. I'm trying to get this message out to everybody. There are a lot of people who are interested in sort of the interpersonal dynamics of job interviewing. Also, you can check out the blog, stoicstalkup.com, where we have full blog posts that go into a lot more detail about this stuff. So job interviewing is not an independent event. It is not flipping a coin. It is a dependent event, but it is dependent on things occurring that aren't pulling marbles out of the bag. It is dependent on events that happen prior to this, such as developing personalized content, learning to police your appearance, police your behavior, learning how to connect to a Zoom meeting, how to connect to a WebEx, when to fail over the phone, how to set up lighting for your virtual interview stage. Now that so much interviewing is virtual, what do you think happens if there's 100 applicants and you're the only one who has good audio and good lighting? You differentiate yourself. So when Andrew did 3 interviews in a row with 100 applicants in each interview, it wasn't a 1 in a million chance because the other applicants did not have a chance. Andrew had systematically dumped all the other marbles out of the bag so that they had to pick the pink marble because no one had the content that he did and no one had the ability to deliver it. I bet if we had video of Andrew on the morning of those interviews, he could have walked up to a lamppost and delivered the same interview. Wasn't a bad interviewer. Had just a few things that he could possibly improve on, plus the development of his content. Let me explain to you how the tone of my interview training differs from the tone of some of the other teachers out there. The other teachers say, we want to raise your probability of getting a job. We want that probability of hiring to be higher for you because you're going to kind of know how to do it. I fundamentally believe you can change your ability to job interview to the point that no one will have a chance against you. I don't think it's based on charisma. I don't think it's based on how you speak. I don't think it's based on how you look, your age, your weight, how many likes you get on social media. I think all of this is immaterial. I think people can be biased very easily, and you can walk into a job interview and make it impossible for any other candidate to get the job. So real quick, before we close out, I want to mention a comment from the last video. Donnie Hubbard commented, "Love it, man. Teach them how to dress too." Now, Donnie Hubbard has Hubbard Clothing Company, which is a fantastic men's store up here in Northwest Arkansas. Just one of the nicest, most well-dressed guys that I think I know. So really cool. I appreciate the comment, Donnie. All right, change those odds. Thanks for watching.